We will begin with Mincha on page 179 of Machzor, if you have one of those. Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha Od Yalelucha Sela. 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 Ashrei Am Shekach Lo, Ashrei Am Shadonai Elohav. Tila David Armim Chaloi HaMelech Shimcha Le'olam Va'ed Gadol Nayim Ulam Me'od V'Ligdu L'Torein V'Ker Targum Odech Omri Techa Asicha Vezin Ortech Yomeru Dulat Chasaprena Sechir Atuchaya Biyu Tzina Tachaya Ranenu Chanun Rakumanonai Erchabayim Hudach Chased Tovaronai Lako Rekamama Koma Asav Yeducharonai Koma Asecha V'Chasidecha Yivarchucha Kvod Malchutcha Yomeru Vuratcha Yidaberu L'Adia Lifnei Adam Geberotav V'Chvad Adar Malchuto Malchutcha Malchut Kol Amin Umemshatcha B'Chodor V'Ador So Mechanonai L'Chol Noflim So Keif L'Chol HaFufim Einei Kol Elecha Yisaberu V'Tanoten Lahem Etochlam B'Hito Potecha Yadecha M'Spir L'Chofay Ratzon Tzadikaronai B'Chodorecha V'Yalsi B'Chol Ma'asav Garogaronai L'Chol Korav L'Chol Asher Yeruhu Ve'emed Ritzon Yerav Yaseh Ve'et Shavatam Yishma Ve'yoshiyim Shomeronai Kol Hava Ve'eklar Shayim Yashmin Tilat Adonai Daber Pi V'Yareko Basar Shikot Sholel Ham Va'ed V'Anachnu Nevarech Ya Me'ata Ve'ad Olam Hallelujah Uva L'Tzion Goel Shavei Pesha B'Yakov Ne'um Adonai Ve'ata Kadosh Yoshev Tehilot Yisrael V'Kara Ze'el Zeh Ve'amar Kadosh 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 Adonai Tzivaot Melo Kol Haaretz Kevodo. The angels on high call out one to another, Holy, holy, holy is Adonai Tzivaot. The whole world is filled with God's glory. They receive sanction from one another, saying, Adonai Tzivaot is holy in the highest heavens, holy on the earth, and holy forever throughout all time. The radiance of God's glory fills the whole world. V'tisa'enu ruach, ve'eshma acharai kol ra'ash gadol, baruch kivod Adonai mimkomo. Adonai imlo, le'olam va'ed. Adonai will reign forever and ever. Adonai Elohei, Avraham Yitzchak V'Yisrael Avotenu, Shamra Zot le'olam le'tzar, Machshavut levavam mecha, V'hachen levavam ailecha. Titan emet le'Yaakov, Chesed le'Avraham asher nishbata le'avotenu mimei kedem. Baruch hu Eloheinu shebra anu lichvodo v'hivdilanu min hatoim. V'natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Yehi ratzon mevanecha, Adonai Eloheinu v'le'avotenu, שנשמור חוקיך בעולם הזה, ונזכה ונחיה ונראה ונרעש טובה אחרי העולם הבא למען יזמרך על כל מועד. ויבטיחו בך יודע שמך כי לא אז בתת דורשך אדוני אדוני חפץ למען צדקו יגדיל תורת ויאדיר.
Good Yom Tov.
Hi.
Good job.
Thanks for coming right on time.
Yeah.
I warmed him up for you.
That's terrific. I was glad to hear you singing when I arrived.
I think we're already on page 184.
Okay, 184. Terrific. We have a good crowd tonight?
I have no idea. I'm crushing it as if there were a great crowd. But anybody who is here is a good crowd. Right? I don't know.
Right. All right, we come now to our Torah reading. And Sarah and I are excited to be able to read the Torah portion. So good Yom Tov. It's great to have you with us. If you're joining from home, I've heard tonight's Mincha and Marav service. Mincha has a Torah reading, and it's a beautiful one. It lets us telescope ahead to where we'll be on next Saturday, a week from now. We had a beautiful walk in the morning at the gardens. The weather was as cool
perfect.
As it could be.
Yeah.
And my lunch that I just finished, which is why I'm late, was also like cold at one point. I went and got a jacket. That was wild, wild weather. That was incredibly gracious weather we've had. I hope you enjoyed your walk today or being out of doors in any case. So we are reading from Devarim, from Parashat Ha'azinu, Devarim chapter 32, page 184. Sarah's going to read the first two Elliot, and I'll take the third.
האזינו השמיים ואדברה ותשמע הארץ אמרי פי יערוב כמה אתר לקחי תזל קטל אמרתי כי שעירים עלי דשא וחרביבים עלי עשב כי שם אדוני אקרא, הבו גודל אלוהינו. הצור תמים פועלו, כי כל דרכיו משפט, אל אמונה ואין עוול, צדיק וישר הוא. שיחד לו בניו מומם, דור עיקש ופתלתול, הל אדוני תגמלו זאת, עם נבל ולא חכם, הלא הוא אביך קנך, הוא עשך ויחוננך.
These poetic passages can be some of the more unusual Hebrew that you don't normally get to hear. So we are on verse 7 of chapter 32 of Devarim, on the bottom of page 184. Zechor yemot olam beinu shenot dor vador she'al avicha v'yagedcha zikanecha yomru lach Behanchel elyon goyim behafrido b'nei adam yotzev gevulaot amim lemispar b'nei Yisrael ki chelek Adonai amo Yaakov chevel nachalato yimsaehu be'eretz midbar Uvto Yilal Yesimon Yisivovenhu Yivonenenhu Yitzreinhu Keishon Eino Kenesher Yair Kino Al Gozalav Yerachef יפרוס כנפיו, ייקחהו, יישאהו על עברתו. אדוני בדד ינחנו, ואין עמו אל נכר.
Yeshkoa.
Thank you. Just want to read the note here on Tzur that appears right below where I ended, if you're looking on the right margin. It says, Rock, Tzur. This term for God, used throughout this poem, expresses the idea that God is a source of refuge, a protector. Protecting forts were located in the high, rocky hills. We use that term Tzur also in a special poem. Yes, for Hanukkah, that a lot of people know, and also that we use out at gravesides after someone we love has just been buried. We talk about God as the rock. The idea is of a particularly large rock, not as large as Red Mountain, but a large rock sort of on the hillside, right? The kind of thing you could climb on, like a mini mountain in its own right. And this piece of Torah we've just read gives us that language.
Also, I think that was the first time I've heard Torah since April. So.
Oh my gosh, it's been silent. It's nice. It's nice. All right, we continue with the Amidah on page 187. Got this one? Since it's Mincha, we can do it out loud. Would you let me take it?
No, I can do it.
You got it. Okay, cool. A little closer to the mic then, just so they can hear you. Holiday as far as you can. Yeah, holiday, yeah. And when you have, we're not sure, Shabbat, but get a little closer to the mic just so they can hear you.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor V'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chasei Avot, U'Mevi Goel Livnei B'neihem, Mashmo B'Ahava,
Reinu lechaim, melech chafetz b'chaim, v'chodveinu b'sefer ha'chaim. Reinu lesefer b'sefer ha'chaim, mahancha Elohim chayim.
Melech Ozer, V'Keinu Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Abraham, U'Poked Sarah.
Amen.
Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayei Meitim, Atah Rav Lehoshia, Mechakel Chaim B'Chesed.
Mechayei meitim berachamim rabim, somech noflim merofei cholim, umatir asurim, umekayem emunato lishenei hafar. Mi chamocha bal gevurot, umi dom melach melech memit.
Mechayei U'Matzmiach Yeshua.
Mi chamocha avarachamim, zocher yitzurav lechai mirachamim.
V'ne'eman atah l'hayot meitim. Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayei ha'meitim.
Amen.
Atah kadosh, v'shimcha kadosh, v'shim b'chol yom ya'avu v'chasel. Uvechen V'chein tein b'chtacha Adonai Eloheinu al kol ma'asecha v'eimatcha al kol ma shebarata v'yiruchu kol ha'ma'asim v'yishtachavu lefanecha kol ha'barim v'yisuchu la'magodacha la'asot ritzoncha b'levav shalem k'mo she'edenu Adonai Eloheinu shehashilton lefanecha oz b'yadecha
ugvura biminecha
v'shimcha nora al kol ma shebarata
barata
Uvechein tein kavod Adonai le'amecha tehila lireyecha v'tikva ledorshecha ufitchon pe lim yachalim lach simcha
le'artzecha v'sason le'irecha
utzmichat keren leDavid abdecha ve'aricha ner levein Yishai mishichecha bimhera ve'amen
Ameinu
Uvechein tzadikim yiru ve'yismechu v'yisharim ya'alozu v'chasidim b'rinayim yagilu ve'olata tikpat piha v'chol harisha kula ka'ashan tichle ki ta'avir memshelet tzadon min
Aretz
Lochata Adonai levadecha al kol ma'asecha be'eretz Zion mishkan kivodecha u'Yerushalayim ir kodshecha karkatu b'yirei kodshecha yimloch Adonai le'olam el hag Zion l'dor v'dor hallelujah kadosh ata v'norah shemecha v'ein Eloah mibaladecha karkatu v'yikva Adonai tzivaot b'mishpat ve'el hakadosh nikdash b'tzdaka Baruch atah Adonai Amelech HaKadosh
Amen
Atzmanu mikol hamim ahavta otanu ratzita banu v'ramtanu mikol hashonot v'kiddushanu b'mitzvotecha v'karabtanu mipenu le'avodatecha v'shimcha hagadol v'kadosh aleinu karata V'titen lanu Adonai Eloheinu b'ahava et yom hashabat hazeh v'et yom hazikaron hazeh v'yom zikaron teruah b'ahava mikrat kodesh zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu Ya'aleh
ve'yavo ve'yera'eh ve'yeratzeh Shama ve'yipaked Yizacher Zichronenu Fiktonenu Ve'zichron Avoteinu Zichron Mashiach Ben David Avdecha Ve'zichron Yerushalayim Ir Kodshecha Ve'zichron Kol Amcha Be'Yisrael Lefanecha Fleita Etova
Sochreinu Adonai Eloheinu bo l'tova.
Amen.
Bo livracha.
Amen.
Bo l'chaim.
Amen.
Yeshua v'rachamim chus b'chaneinu v'rachem aleinu v'oshienu ki elecha eineinu ki amelchanu v'rachum
Ata.
Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu meloch kol haolam kulo bichlodecha v'hinasei al kol haaretz bikarecha v'hofa b'adar ge'onuzecha al kol yoshvei tevel artzecha v'eda kol pa'ul ki ata pe'alto v'yavin kol yatzur ki ata yitzarto v'yomer kol asher nishama v'apo Adonai Elohei Yisrael melech u'malchuto v'kol mashala Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu v'ritzei v'mechatenu k'chenu b'mitzvotecha v'tenchaveinu v'toratecha sabenu mituvecha v'samchenu b'shuatecha v'enchileinu Adonai Eloheinu b'ahava v'ratzon shabbat kodshecha v'yenuchu v'Yisrael mikadshei shemecha v'tahir libeinu l'avdecha be'emet ki ata Elohim emet Udvarecha emet v'kayam le'at Baruch atah Adonai melech
Al kol haaretz mekadesh Yisroel melech
melech al kol haaretz, Kadesh Yisrael.
Melech al kol haaretz, Mekadesh HaShabbat veYisrael, Beyom HaZikaron.
Amen.
Tfilatam ve'ashevet avodah lidbir betecha v'ishe Yisrael u'tfilatam be'ahava t'kabel b'ratzon u'tila ratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha v'techezena einenu b'shuvcha l'tzion b'rachamim baruch atah Adonai amachazir shechinato b'tzino.
Modim anav.
Hatov kilo chalu rachamecha v'hamarchem kilo tamu chasadecha me'olam kivinu lach ve'ol kulam yibarak v'yitramam shimcha malkeinu tamid le'olam va'ed uchtov l'chaim tovim b'kol b'nei beritecha v'chol ha'chaim yoducha sela v'yalu et shimcha be'emet ha'el yeshuotenu v'ezratenu sela baruch atah Adonai hatov shimcha u'fanai lehodot.
Amen.
Yisrael amcha shalom Rabba Yisrael amecha tasim leolam ki atahu melech adon v'chol ha'shalom v'tov beinecha livarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol eit u'b'chol sha'a b'shlomecha b'sefer chaim
Bracha v'shalom u'farnasa tova b'sefer v'nikatev lefanecha. Beit Yisrael
L'chaim tovim
u'leshalom.
Baruch atah Adonai oseh hashalom.
Amen. Eloheinu tov l'shoni me'ra.
Please turn over to page 196 on Shabbat. We don't do Avinu Malkeinu. As far as I can see, it's in particular because of the resting nature of Shabbat. And Avinu Malkeinu is the real cry of the soul in distress. And it's just not seen as having the nature of Shabbat, even though it is of the nature of the Yom Tov. So we continue to Aleinu on page 196. Please rise. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol.
Take you to Laleotzer Breshit, Shelo Asana Kigoye Haratzot,
V'lo samanu k'mishpachot hadama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'gor aleinu k'chol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech malchei amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ledakein olam b'malchut shadei, lehafanot elecha kol b'shei haaretz.
Kagatu v'torotecha, v'nayim l'chelam ba'eh.
V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz. Bayom ha'u yeh Adonai echad. U'shemo echad. U'shemo
echad. This week at Temple Bethel, we conclude the week remembering the following yard sites. Oh, you've got a page. That's lovely. Thank you. Okay, Sarah just pointed out to me that on page 293, we in fact have Psalm 23. 293. Isn't that nice how the 2 and the 3 are separated? 293. You can find that as I read our yard site list. We recall the following yard sites at Temple Bethel this week. Gusta Anselovich, Bella Axel, Isidore Banks, Sam Berman, Mabel Bloomston, Rose Blumenfeld, William Bombshell, Anna Buchalter, Tilly Kayleys, Justin Cohen, Tessie Cohen, Albert Cohn, Leonard Damsky, Etha Feigelson, Ida Finkelstein, Ann Freed, Richard Friedman, Bessie Froman, Melanie Gershon, Charles Goldman, Jack Goldstein, Yosef Gulabov, Rose Green, Paula Grossman, Jenny Grusin, Dorothy Hahn, Harry Hervich, Ann Jokel, Esther Josephs, Saul Landy, Maxine Lapidus, Max Levy, Edward Lurie, Jackie Medin, Evelyn Padower, Israel Padower, Alva Shevin Permit, Bertha Plotka, Beatrice Politz, Margaret Rice, Alan Rice, Minnie Robin, Stuart Rosen, Pauline Rosenberg, Fanny Rutsky, Paul Rutsky, Julius Udall Schuster, Israel Schall, Ida Sugarman, Walter Siegler, Joseph Sikora, Sophie Krantz Tarr, Janice Taubman, Rose Wander, Julian Weinstein, Sheila Wright, Mabel Zahler, Rose Zeft, and B. Ziff. If you would normally be saying Kaddish, please rise, turn to page 293, as we say together, Psalm 23. Mizmor LeDavid. A psalm of David. Adonai is my shepherd, I shall not want. God gives me repose in green meadows and guides me over calm waters. God will revive my spirit and direct me on the right path, for that is God's way. Though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are at my side. Your staff and your rod comfort me. You prepare a banquet for me in the presence of my foes. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and kindness shall be my portion all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of Adonai in the fullness of time. V'shavti beveit Adonai leorech yamim. Thank you for that page number.
Sure.
That was useful.
I figured there was a Yisker in here, so.
Yeah, so there should actually be a, right, absolutely. Okay, I want to share a thought before we come to the next service. So Sarah, if you want to, you may well sit down before we come to the Marv service. Just fairly brief. Okay. All right. I want to share with you two separate concepts, but I think they'll come together nicely. So this morning I had the stunning experience to go on this prayer walk that we were able to do in the Birmingham Botanical Gardens, and it was a very special moment for me and for many people who came up to say thank you afterwards for all the hard work that the staff put in, like Sarah and Bethany and Margaret and Lindsay and Pam and Amber in preparing this, and me too. And it has been a lot of hard work, and it was great to see it come off. Some elements that I particularly loved observing, I couldn't see everything. Everyone has a slightly individual experience, but some elements I enjoyed seeing. I saw people talking, taking the readings really to heart and being encouraged by them, feeling almost seen or known. One piece of feedback said, I felt like you wrote that whole thing for me. Someone else came up and wanted to make sure that I had actually written it, and asked it, did you write this, Rabbi? Where did this come from? Lots of people saying, I love this. This is an experience that actually speaks to me, and could we do it again? And that was a lovely thing to hear. I was particularly heartened to have a friend, a pastor, come up from Montgomery and to get to take him on the walk along with Reverend Melissa Self-Patrick, one of the assets we have here in the community over at Holocaust Education Center, and to walk with them. And then the mayor was able to carve out some time in his very busy schedule, and we got to talk through the reading for the Torah service together, and he had a lot to add about the difference between accountability and blame. Hearing people reflect in that way was really powerful. I want to tell you something about the purpose of these walks. We have 2 more. We'll be back at it tomorrow morning at 8:45 for the early bird slot. And you're welcome to come again. All new texts, a new walk in some sense, but a familiar route now that you've been on it before. In some sense, you can't really suck the marrow of a good experience the first time. You need to come and repeat, and that's actually the purpose of our 2-day holidays. I want you to see this year's prayer experience. While it may not be the most traditional, it may not sate our soul with all that sense of, wow, we've been here before, we've done this is just like it's always been, which is a familiar and very comfortable experience. It may not do all of that we need. Instead, that's what you can be doing over the online video, since we can't be in person. But instead, to understand that what we're doing out there is we're trying to go deeper with prayer. Year by year, we come and we're sort of washed with all these words that come just rolling over us, one after the other, as the cantor continues to lead us through, the Shaliach Tzibor, the representative of the community. But this year, we need to go deeper, in some sense beyond the words, to the heart. And that actually is the purpose of prayer every year. It's just that this year, that's all we've got, right? This year, when we're not allowed to gather together and sing in large groups, effectively holiday services in person have been shut down, except for a handful of places that have figured out how to do it, say in tents or something like that. And so what we have to do is talk about the prayer of the heart. See, prayer works not at a rational level, but I would say at a pre-rational level, deeper in consciousness. Yes, it's something we do while we're awake, so I'm not talking about going as deep as, say, what happens in dreams. But people who study the brain have identified different nodes of the brain, and some of it has to do with conscious thinking, and some of it deals with pre-conscious and pre-rational thinking. Prayer is supposed to affect us somewhere deeper than rationality. I don't know if you've noticed, but it seems that people that work in reasoning can seem to come up with a reason for almost anything. Lawyers can defend even people who are patently guilty, and that's their job, and they should do that. But we can come up with a reason for just about anything. We can come up with reasons for unjustifiable wars or reasons for very bad life decisions. Reasons are easy to come by, almost a dime a dozen. But what happens prior to the reasons? Well, that's the space that prayer tries to access. Throughout our tradition and many traditions, we've known that to get there, sometimes you have to go deeper into prayer than you can do with words. That's why pilgrimage has played such a strong role throughout our tradition and throughout other traditions. There's a pilgrimage in a part of the world that has very much inspired me called the Camino, that goes over the Pyrenees, and people head down to the seashore after going over the mountains in Spain, in northern Spain. And it's something that inspires me. Someday I'd like to walk the Pyrenees. I'm not sure I need to go down the Camino, but I'd like to go down a Camino over the Pyrenees someday, just because there's something special about that place and about the significance of the trek. See, walking goes deeper than our words do. Rabbi Israel Salanter, a very important rabbi that my wife studies and is writing about, said that there's 3 things you can do in order to go deeper than just the words of prayer. You can use visualization, trying to visualize the thing that you're longing for or praying for. You can use reflection, kind of clear-minded, only contemplating one thing, setting aside other things so that you're just in that. And you can use chant, a repetition of the words. There was a practice called hitpalut that the Hasidim of Rabbi Israel Salanter would use that goes deeper through words than mere words. And what we've planned for you out there on the Birmingham Botanical Gardens is actually to use elements of both visualization and reflection. I can't say we're using a lot of chant, though I guess at the Torah Ark, well, Sarah is chanting, but the congregation isn't. But at the Torah Ark, people may join in and chant. So I guess we have all 3. But stressing the first 2. Normally we use more chant here in this space. But visualization. Why visualization? In this case, you don't have to imagine it with your mind's eye. You can walk into a garden on the birthday of the world and say, wow, look, all this is created by Hashem. And all that you need to do to visualize it is to become attentive to the world around you. Oftentimes we run through the world not seeing it. But the gardens, because of their beautiful format and because of the flowers all around us and how things are designed with such grace, engage the senses to be drawn into this, to say, wow, this creation is what God is giving us again this year. That we get to walk around God's garden, the world. And then aspects of reflection, that's what the prayer booklet is for, to prompt questions that you can ask yourself. There are questions for the individual that may be a little bit more private. Say, on the very first station today, we asked, who am I becoming? As a reflection on the past year and the coming year. But then for the group, in what ways, these are things you can discuss more in public, in what ways do you hope to influence our communal culture this coming year in our congregation or city or nation that are actually up for sort of public discussion? Through those reflections, we believe that we can go deeper. I want to tell a story. It's similar to the one I told last night that may help us see some of this. It's a famous story. You've heard it many times. There once was a flood, and the residents of the house all ran for a different form, of that city all ran for a different form of escape. But one man simply went up onto the second floor, and when the water got higher and overtook the second floor, he went out onto his roof, and there he waited for some form of rescue. And this person was particularly pious, and so they prayed to God, God, please save me from this flood. And, I skipped a step. Prior, there were lots of warnings, as you get these days, right? A flood is coming, you need to evacuate the area. I'll stay in my house and see what comes, is where the man had been at. Okay, now he's on top of his roof. He's praying to God, okay, God, would you please save me? I really need some help here. I'm stuck. And along comes a boat, and the boat waves at him and says, hey, it looks like you need some help. Do you want to come down here? We'll take you away. And the man says, no, I have already asked God for help, and the boat sails on by. And then he hears whoosh, 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 the blades of a helicopter sailing on by overhead. And the helicopter stops and throws down on the rope, and the man says, nope, I've already asked God for help. And the helicopter goes on by. Can't help that one. What are you going to do? This man, eventually the water gets higher and higher. The man dies, goes to heaven. He sees God, and he's like, God, I don't understand. I asked you for help. I've served you all these years. How did you not listen to my prayer? And God says, no, I didn't send help. I sent you a warning. I sent you a boat. I sent you a helicopter. I didn't help. Sometimes we have exactly what we need available to us, and we refuse to take a hold of it. Think about this year before the pandemic. A lot of people in the first half of this past year, right, of Tashap, 5780. A lot of us were thriving externally, but if you listen to people a little bit beneath the surface, you would notice that they were stretched thin, that they felt like they were giving all they could give. That life was simply too busy. The job was asking too much of them. The world was changing so fast. There was a deep sense of anxiety, a deep sense of fragility right underneath the surface. Along comes the pandemic of 2020, and it shuts everything down. There's lockdown. We can't go places. We can't even gather together. Some people spend months sheltering in their homes. Others figure out how to go out safely with a mask and adapt their life. But it basically slows everything right down to a near standstill. Weren't we asking just 9 months ago that the pace of the world should slow down a little bit? No, we didn't mean this. No, we didn't mean to slam on the brakes. But we said that it would be amazing if the pace of the world would slow down. Maybe we've been sent help from heaven. The pace of the world was getting out of control. Our anxiety was reaching ridiculous levels. Our stress was out of control. Everyone was super anxious. Now we have a deep, deep quiet, a downbeat amongst the fury of the world. You see, everything depends on how we approach what we're handed. So how are we going to approach 5781? We probably have another 6, 9, 12 months, who knows, of this pandemic. What a mess. How are we going to approach that? It's not that this is a good thing, but we've been handed something. Our only choice is how to respond to it. Are we going to just grit our teeth and, sort of resent every aspect of it and somehow come through it, none the better? Or are we going to receive it as undesired, unrequested help? What can you do with months of more time at home? I talked to a person today who no longer has to commute for their work to Tuscaloosa. They gain an hour and 15 minutes each way. They have 2.5 hours more per workday to work with, a good dozen hours. Now, that's not everybody. Some people are working much longer, et cetera, but what are we going to do with the change and the pace of our life? It's not that you'll always have more time, but time will go by differently in one way or another. What are you going to do with that? What is Tashba 5781? What possibilities does it rise up for you? You see, everything in life depends on how we receive it. There are the things we cannot control. There's a pandemic that's killing a lot of people, and everyone, it seems, gets it, even those who are cautious. It's very hard to avoid it, right? But how are we going to receive that? Now, that's up to you. That's up to me. We can each decide what to do. It will sift us. But the question is, are we willing to receive the gift that we're given? Are we going to receive this as help from heaven, or merely make our lives yet more stressful, yet more busy? I would like to suggest, much like the reading we had last night, God says, I offer you life and a blessing, or death and a curse. You have to choose. That's the case each and every day with most major decisions and small decisions. Will we make it for life, or will we make it for death? Will this become a blessing or a cursing? The choice is yours. It really depends on the mind that you have to bring to it. That's why these days are so crucial, to allow ourselves to realign ourselves for life. That's literally what we're praying for on these 3 holy days, and what we'll do again in the morning. What if we saw 5781, the conclusion of 2020, as a deep gift of a different kind of time? The one thing that we can never get back, the only irreplaceable resource in our finite mortal lives, is time. And the whole key for unlocking it is your kavanah, the intention that you bring to it this year. So join us in prayer. Pray to change your kavanah so that this year can again be a gift. Thank you.
Thanks, Rabbi Stephen. That was nice.
Thank you. Right back at the beginning, huh? Mm-hmm. If you'll turn with me to the beginning of your prayer book, we'll pick it up on page
5-ish?
Yeah, 5, not 4, because we begin the Mariv service for the second day of Yom Tov. I believe it looks like the sun has set, and those are just street lights out there. I don't have a watch, but I believe it is time. So we'll start on page 5 as we head into Chol time. It's weird to not have said Havdalah, right? But Mariv does the trick too.
Umavir yom umevi laila umavdil ben yom uven laila Adonai tzivot shemo elchai v'kayam tamid yimloch alei le'olam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai hama'ari v'aravim.
Page 6.
כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נגע יומם ולילה ואהבת כלל תסיר ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל
El Melech Ne'eman.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha B'chol levacha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha Ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele Asher anochi mitzavecha Hayom al levavecha Vishinantam levanecha, v'dibarta bam, b'shivtecha b'veitecha, u'v'lechtecha v'derech, u'shofecha u'kumecha, u'shartam le'ot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha, u'tavtam al mezuzot beitecha, u'yisharecha.
As the days of heaven upon the earth.
L'man tizkeru v'asitem kol mitzvotai v'item kirushim aleichem. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem.
The one who places our portion among the living.
U'malchuto biratzon kiblu alehem Moshe u'Miriam u'bnei Yisrael lechanu shira b'simcha rabba v'emru chulam. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osei felei. Malchutecha ra'uvanecha bokei ayam livnei Moshe, ze Eli anu ve'amru, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. V'ne'emar ki fada Adonai et Yaakov u'galo me'ad chazak mimenu. Baruch atah Adonai ga'al Yisrael.
Would you read with me in the margin on the left this kavanah about the Hashkivenu and the Sukkah? Peace. Peace comes to us in the recognition that even in our weakest and most fragile moments, redemption can be achieved. The central image in this prayer is the Sukkah of peace. The Sukkah is a fragile structure, temporary, open to the elements. Peace is pictured not as a temple, solidly built, gilded, perhaps ornate, but rather as created out of the most fragmentary of materials, leaving us vulnerable, at risk.
Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, Baruch atah Adonai, haborei sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim.
Turn with me past the other portions to the Amidah on page 11. And this one, because of being Marav, what we won't say out loud together. Sarah, are you ready to do a Havdalah now, or is there a separate time listed for that in the booklet? I forget how it goes.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow you'll do a Havdalah. Okay. All right, very good. Yeah. Okay, these are just phrases. Yeah. We don't want to light a Havdalah candle tonight, of course. All right, very good. All right. Good. At home, I just want to specify to people that while you shouldn't be lighting a Havdalah candle, you may well say a Borei Meoreha Esh again over your candles if you're transferring flame or if you just have one that lasts 48 hours. And the bracha is Hamavdil ben Kodesh leKodesh, as we just said in that special fourth paragraph. And you may also say Shehechianu tonight as we come to the second day of Rosh Hashanah. So that's an important thing to know. Very good. Okay, let's go to closing for prayers on page 25. Please rise. Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol, v'atei kedula leotzer breishit, shelo asanu kegoyei aratzot, v'lo samanu kemishpachot hadama, Helkeinu kahem vegor aleinu kechol hamonam v'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei amlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Al ken nekaveh lecha Adonai. לתקן עולם במלכות שדי, להפנות אליך כל ראשי הארץ. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד, ושמו אחד. Tonight, on the beginning of Sunday, we recall the following yartzites at Temple Bethel: Sarah Allen, Bless Brown, George Kaylees, Jacob Chaimowitz, Mose Damsky, Simon Fredoff, Miriam Gruder, Dorothy Majarian, Sydney Peller, Ms. Jill Radwin, and Charles Zivitz. If you would normally be saying Kaddish at this time, please turn on page 293 in your Machzorim for Psalm 23, and we'll say that together in English. Please rise. Mizmor LeDavid, a psalm of David. Adonai is my shepherd, I shall not want. God gives me repose in green meadows and guides me over calm waters. God will revive my spirit and direct me on the right path, for that is God's way. Though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no harm, for you are at my side. Your staff and your rod, they comfort me. You prepare a banquet for me in the presence of my foes. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and kindness shall be my portion all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of Adonai in the fullness of time. V'hishavti beveit Adonai leorech yamim. You know, Sarah, since we're not going to be back here for a little bit, I just want to extend a special healing prayer also to a Misha Berach list, and we'll just crack the ark since we're here. And we've also read from Torah earlier, so it actually makes a good deal of sense. If you'll please rise as Sarah opens the ark. Just get to the right prayer. goodness. Sorry, it's in a different siddur, a different place. I just want to open up the text to the right spot. Okay. Please rise. It's an interesting thing. We pray for the healing of those we love, Bizchut Torah, with the merit of Torah. So having heard some Torah this evening, we're holding that in mind as we pray for the healing of those we love. Mishe berach avotenu Avraham, Yitzchak veYaakov, imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel veLeah, hu yevarech veyirapeh et hacholim. Deborah Lindy, Phil Gross, Malki Sarah Bat Miriam, Sarah, Lisa Kaplan, Dolly Staff, Shmuel Ben Brenna, Sua Tuck, Leah Aviva Bat Ita Rachel, Avram Bitron, Bert Bloomston, Richard DeLello, Amy Davis, David Ben Yehuda Vechana, Scott Harris, Wayne Lassen, Sarah Bet Elchanan Velea, Alina Kishinevsky Stern, Corey Rothman, Malachi Saracen, Izzy Mae Sherman, Catherine Bland, Gareth Klotz, Taylor Cabase, Leonid Belenki, Roberta Kelly, Barker Stein, Stanley Rosenblum, Gal Soroti, Bruce Fleissig, Jody Baum, Joshua Richmond, Joyce Shevin. And you may add the names of those on your mind and hearts. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yimale Rachamim Alehem Lachazikam Ulerapotam Veishlach Lahim Meira Refuah Shelema Mina Shamayim Refuat HaNefesh Urfuat HaGuf Betoch She'ar HaCholim V'chazek et Yedei HaOskim B'tzorcheihem Shahat Yom Tov Hi Milizok Urfuat Krova Lavo Ha'ashta Bagalav Izman Kariv V'nomar Amen.
Of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen.
Mishe berachim otenu mikor habracha Avotenu, those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Continue with Psalm 27 on page 27. LeDavid Adonai ori ve'ishihi mimira Adonai ma'oz chayai mimi evcha mikrovai alemeraim le'echol et besari Achat shalti me'er Adonai otavakesh Shivti Beveit Adonai kol yemei chayai lachazot benoam Adonai ulevaker beichalo lachazot benoam Adonai ulevaker Beichalo ki yitbeneni bahasuka.
Lule hamanti lirot betov Adonai beretz chaim, kahave el Adonai, chazek ve'yametz libecha, ve'kaveh el Adonai. Page 28.
Yigdal Elohim chai ve'yishtabach. Nope.
Different starting now.
Yigdal Elohim chai
Yishtabach. Are you getting Shabbos? What are you?
I'm Shabbosing. I
Okay.
need a minute.
Sarah's going to think of the holiday tune.
Yigdal Elohim chai ve'yishtabach nimsa ve'enei el metziuto echad ve'en yachid ke'ichudo nelam ve'gam ein suf le'achduto ein lo demut haguf ve'ein no guf lo naroch elav kiddushato kadmon lechol davar asher nivra rishon ve'en reshit le'reshito hino adon olam v'chol notzar yorer gedulato u'malchuto shashefa nevuato netan noel and segulato v'tifarto lo kam be'Yisrael k'mo she'od navi umabit et emunato Torah emet natan le'amoel al nevio ne'eman beito lo yachalif ha'el velo yamir dato le'olamim le'zulato Tzofei ve'yodea setarenu mabid lesof davar bekad mato Gomer leish chesed kemifalo noten lerasha rak erishato
Yishlach leketz yamin meshichenu lifto mechakeketz Yeshuato Meitim Yechael Berov Chasto Baruch Adonai Shem Tehilato Meitim Yechael Berov Chasto Baruch Adonai Shem Tehilato. Good Yom Tov, everyone. Let me abbreviate these announcements. We are back at the Gardens at 8:45 tomorrow through 11:15 when the traditional service goes live, and you are welcome to be a part of it. So thank you so much for joining us virtually or in person during these services. We're thrilled that you're involved. You can find all the links on the Temple Bethel website. So if you found this, you probably know, but go to the Temple Bethel website. For each of our events, there is a link to the right spot, if that's YouTube or Facebook Live. Don't forget about Tashlich. Tomorrow afternoon is at 5 o'clock over at Avondale Park. Please bring bread to throw in. Families and children of all ages are especially encouraged. This is particularly fun. So you'll want to be there at 5 o'clock, Avondale Park. There will be a survey coming out regarding Rosh Hashanah on Sunday evening. So please check your emails and let us know what you think. This is an integral part of our planning and debriefing process, and we're looking forward to hearing what you have to say. Owning lulav and etrog during Sukkot, which is the holiday that begins right after Yom Kippur, just a week, is an incredibly important mitzvah, and it's important that families get their own set. This year it's particularly important because we won't be gathering here at the shul, and you can't just do that thing where you're like, maybe I can grab one real fast, right? But people should own theirs, and they will be pre-assembled. You can get them through the Bethel website for just $50. The deadline has actually been extended all the way to September 29th. Wow, we have a local supplier, thank God, on 3 p.m. September 29th. Sets will be available for pickup at the synagogue on one day only, October 2nd. come on by and pick them up 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m., but that's all day of October 2nd, so that's not bad. My Beit Midrash class has been canceled on October 1st, and since it's only 2 weeks away, I'll also dare say I canceled it separately. I was going to go on vacation, but I got a call I've been waiting for like a year and a half from the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute, and they are inviting me. I'll call in from vacation to a conversation called Building Bridges, a conversation about race between the Black and Jewish communities in Birmingham. This is a very important conversation. I'd love to see you there. That's actually happening at the same time slot as my Beit Midrash, so that's Thursday at noon that first week of October 1st. Thursday at noon, October 1st, so be there. You'll not want to miss it, or it's the first of a series of talks on this topic, and thank God they reached out to us to be involved. Our engagement and collaboration coordinator, Margaret Norman, will be hosting a virtual workshop on kashrut, barbecue, and what food reveals about life in Israel and the American South. That's happening Wednesday, October 7th at 6 to 7:30 p.m. This workshop's going to be really cool. It'll feature a discussion of Margaret's podcast. Did you know Margaret made a podcast while living in Israel called Going Whole Hog in Israel? It will also involve a vegan barbecue cooking demo and time to ask questions and just get to know Margaret as well. So participants are invited to cook along. Did you get that? Not sing along, cook along. How cool is that? So mark your calendars. This should be a fun and informative program. If you register online, you can learn what ingredients to bring. So check out the website. Good Yom Tov, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow.